Anyway, I'm Guy Rosefelt. I'm going to talk about how we can do your digital transformation together. Now, why this is important is all around the world, and as you saw, we had talked about earlier, there are breaches happening every day. There are attacks happening every day. If we look at the change year over year from last year, a 38% increase in attacks that have happened. Data breach. No organization is too big or too small. Microsoft, Cortana, Bing, they had their code and their technology attacked. If you look over here, the country of Costa Rica. Costa Rica was held for ransom for over 2 months. They had to shut the government down for 2 months because all their systems were down. Now imagine what would happen here in Indonesia or any place else in Asia Pacific if you had to shut the government down for 2 months. What would that do to the company, to the country? And then anybody here that's into cryptocurrency, I just bought cryptocurrency, so I'm not worried about mine is going to be safe. There have been a lot of crypto exchanges been hacked because of poor security controls, okay? This is an example here. If you look at crypto.com, and they lost $33 million, and then the Rain Gaming platform. The Rain Gaming platform did something interesting. They were trying to get new players. They're trying to get 100,000 new players back a year ago, December. And what they did was, because they're gonna have a big influx of new business, they had to turn down some of the security controls to be able to handle the influx of new requests. Otherwise, the security would slow it down. It was a very successful promotion. They got 100,000 new gamers to come play, and then they got hacked, and they lost $600 million in Bitcoin because after the promotion, they forgot to turn the security back up, okay? Operational controls, human error, those are the biggest things that cause problems in most organizations when they get attacked. Now, we can talk about what we see here. We have organizations all around the world. Infrastructure, Germany got hit. Cash App, I use Cash App to send money back and forth to other people. They got attacked. Education, healthcare, two of the top industries because they're very easy to attack. Think about that. How many people here are healthcare customers? Anybody? Raise your hand if you're healthcare. Okay? You know, one of the things that Sangfor prides itself is being able to help specific industries. And we have a lot of things that we don't do about healthcare. So go back, talk to those guys. We got some things for healthcare we'd like to tell you about later on. But again, the big thing about this is specific injuries have specific requirements, but they also have specific attack services that open them up to breach. And this is something that we need to help you, your partners need to help you understand and figure out how to solve. If we look around the world where we got hit the most, Africa was the hardest hit with 1,800 attacks weekly. But if you look at the Asia Pacific region, we had almost 1,700 attacks a week throughout Asia Pacific, every week for a year. That is a lot of attacks hitting organizations all week long, every day. How do you protect against that? And when you look at other regions, North America, Europe, Latin America, they're not immune. Everybody's getting hit. Huge year-over-year increases in terms of being attacked. Hackers don't care. Hackers care about two things: money and stealing information to make more money. Okay? So the question is, how secure is your data so that it doesn't get stolen for them to make more money? All right. When we talk about how these things happen, we've spent a lot of years teaching you guys how to do traditional defense in-depth security, right? You guys think you build layered security, firewalls, routers, access rules and stuff like that. Well, today, that doesn't work anymore, okay? The bad guys are smarter, they use smarter tools, they know how to circumvent the technology that we've been using and the strategies that we've used in the past. We've always told you, you want to defend, you want to detect, and you want to block, right? That's what we do. We put stuff out there. We have firewalls, detect and block. We have endpoint, detect and block. And we're so excited We're so excited because our technology works at 99.9 something percent effectiveness. Isn't that great? Almost 100%. We can block things at 100%, almost 100%. Isn't that great? Congratulations to all you guys. Except, AV Test, one of the leading malware research organizations globally, sees anywhere between 350 and 500,000 new malware samples every day. Every day. Now think about this. I am protected at 99.95%. I can block everything for 99.95%. But if I'm seeing 350,000 new potential samples every day, that means I am allowing through potentially 1,750 samples every day that I cannot stop. 1,750 samples every day that potentially get through. All it takes is one. And now you're breaching. How does that happen? You see what people talked about earlier on? We talked about AI-enabled tools, weaponized AI. This is the part that's going to become a big thing in the coming year. Hackers have already figured out how to use AI to make malware, advanced persistent threats smarter. The malware comes into your organization and it goes to sleep for a while. It wakes up and checks around and has a whole checklist of criteria that says, is this where I should be? Am I in Russia? Am I in a specific company? Am I looking for a specific user? The security protocols I disabled the other day, are they still on or off? Based upon this checklist, looking at the environment, looking at the systems that it's on, it decides whether it should attack you or not, which makes it more difficult to detect when a breach is going to happen, because it can sit and do nothing for months. So, we have ChatGPT. How many people know what ChatGPT is? A chatbot is, right? Okay, great tool. It was like, basically it souped up Google. You could go, you can make queries, it searches, does some great stuff. And with every great technology comes the bad side, because script kiddies and attackers realize, well, if I can search for anything, I can use ChatGPT to help me look for things like, how do I write malware code? How do I do certain kinds of things? And that becomes the bad stuff. That's going to become our next threat, because more AI is coming, but even people who have no hacking skills, no coding skills, they can take advantage of the AI that's on the internet right now and help do bad things. And then lastly here, we're going to talk about working from anywhere. How many people here work from anywhere? Right? You have organization, you guys work from anywhere, okay? So you used to have a perimeter. A perimeter means you came to work, you worked in a building, you worked in an office, you had a firewall connected to the internet to protect you from all the bad things. There's no such thing as a perimeter anymore because nobody's in the office. And I have to connect from the outside. That means my perimeter is now Swiss cheese. How do you protect against all the holes for people coming in from the outside doing things? And as you guys are transitioning to the cloud, as you heard Michael talk about earlier, some of the things that Wilson said, how do you protect the perimeter that's out there? Right? This is why, as Michael was talking about earlier, zero trust is now the new perimeter. This is something you have to think about. Traditional security no longer works. You have to think out of the box. You have to think a completely different way to be able to block these next-gen threats. Here's an example. Talking about weaponized AI. So you look at ChatGPT, and hackers go out and say, okay, show me code that I can use to make malware. And lo and behold, it searches the internet, all the archives that are out there, and it comes back and shows you, well, here's malware that we discovered that someone wrote about in a journal, and here's the code. Now they can take this code, and they can take other searches, and they can actually compile the stuff together, and they can build new types of malware with almost no experience required. Okay, that's very dangerous. Think about the amount of bad actors that you've had in your region. Think about the attacks that happened in Indonesia, in the Philippines, in Manila. These are kind of things you have to worry about. Attackers are getting dumber, but they got tools that make them look smarter. That becomes the hardest thing you have to figure out. Just to give you an idea, they don't even have to learn how to write malware. They don't have to learn how to write code. They can say, hey, show me how to do spam, how to do phishing. And you can go to the dark web now and you can see thousands and thousands of homemade scripts on how to launch phishing and spam attacks that anybody can use for $4 or $5, right? That becomes a very big thing. My favorite, this is my favorite. Somebody said, hey, chat, how do I attack my company? How do I hack? And sure enough, it comes back and tells you the basics of hacking. It gives you some step-by-step things to go do, okay? The technology in itself is not dangerous. It's the people that use it, all right? So we have to figure out how we're gonna defend ourselves against this kind of AI as people are using it to attack things, as well as the stuff that's in the malware that's already smarter than we are. What this does is this drives us up to the cloud. Why? Because we don't have a perimeter, we can't afford infrastructure, we don't have enough resources. Post-pandemic, budgets are smaller than they were. We don't have the resources, we lost a lot of people, and we were as short as a deficit of experienced computer people, security people before the pandemic, right? You guys all are still looking to find good security people for your organization. It's getting harder to find. Currently, there is over 2.5 million vacant positions open globally looking for experienced security people. That's how bad it is. So we need to make things simpler, and we start driving things to the cloud. Because if we got these new threats, we need new functionalities, we need to be able to reduce our cost, moving away from expensive CapEx into something that's easier to do like OpEx, and have other people help us with managed services, with the ability to use expertise from our partners and that we use. It helps us solve the lack of resource problem, the lack of expertise problem. It helps us because we don't have as big a budget in security. I'll tell you a story. Before I had this job, I had another job where I was actually an SC once upon a time. And I was getting ready to do a deployment at a very large financial organization in the United States. What I normally do when I go and do an engagement for services is I would call the week before and work on the logistics. I called my customer, no answer. I called my customer, no answer. I called for 3 days and my customer did not respond back, which was starting to worry me because I was going to be there on Monday. I needed to know things. I kept calling and calling. I found the chain of command. I called his boss. Nobody answered. And I had to go up. I finally had to get to the CIO. And I got to the CIO's office. The secretary told me, well, unfortunately, we don't need you because we're going to cancel the engagement. I said, why? Well, they released the security team last week because they didn't think security services in-house was necessary. And I said, why is that? Well, we've never been attacked. We've never been hacked. I mean, what do you mean never been hacked? No, we've never had an attack. What they didn't realize was the security team did so well because they were handling probably easily 30, 40 attacks a week, which they were able to resolve quickly, but they never escalated what they did to upper management. So upper management never saw the work that they did. As far as they were concerned, they never got attacked. And security was a cost sink. It was not a revenue generator, it was a cost sink that was very expensive. They decided to save money and get rid of the security organization. Okay? Needless to say, 30 days later, they were hacked big time because they had nobody to protect them and do services. So it becomes very important when we talk about lack of budget, lack of expertise, lack of resources, okay? You may not be in an extreme position as my customer was, but you guys still have your own issues to deal with in terms of trying to solve these problems, yes? Am I right? Okay, so by moving to the cloud, it allows you to be able to spend your money in a more efficient, more productive way, and being able to reallocate your resources. So instead of having people worry about simple things, you can now take the people on your security teams in-house and have them do more important things, like incident investigation and other kinds of stuff. Oh, in a lot of organizations, in a lot of countries, because of power issues and green things, moving to the cloud is much more environmentally friendly. And that's a big thing for a lot of customers. And I'm pushing the button. There we go. Back up. All right. So many of you, if you're Sangfor customers, have seen this or something like this many, many times, right? We talk about XDDR. We talk about synergy. That has been Sangfor's message for the last couple of years. is all our products talk together. They work together because every security product has a sphere of influence. Network things take care of network stuff, endpoint things take care of endpoint stuff. They don't really meet and match. And that's what the problem is. You get these gaps in your security, and that's how the bad things get through. But by having the synergy and your products overlap and work together, it prevents the bad things from getting through because it closes up all those attack surfaces that we have. And Sangfor is very good at that. As we transitioned after the pandemic, we could show that we could support work from anywhere and still be able to keep your organization secure with how we do SSL VPN, SD-WAN, using our endpoint technologies. Now we're showing you that we're moving to the cloud. We have a very nice cloud infrastructure. We've been studying that for a very long period of time. We've enhanced our cloud infrastructure, our HCI for hyperconverged stuff. We have cloud managed services, and we've increased the ability to do security for those things to make your stuff more secure. And we've talked about, we introduced Sangfor Access last year, which is our cloud SASE in certain regions. We're pushing it out to the rest of the world this year. So again, we've got different models to help you do things. And as you guys transition from being on-premise to the cloud, we have different technologies that can help you on the journey based upon where you are. And they're all affordable. Now, here's a couple of use cases I want to talk about how our technology works. This is a manufacturing company that made car parts, and they got attacked by ransomware. How many manufacturing customers are here? Manufacturing, anybody? Okay, great. So what happened here is this was an organization protected by Palo Alto and protected by Blue Coat as Cisco core switch. It's divided into segregated networks, production versus administration. Most organizations do that, right? You got segregation, you got the good stuff happening in there. They had Trend Micro for endpoint protection. What happened was they got attacked because they got hit by ransomware. Now, what's interesting about this attack, normally, when ransomware occurs, ransomware normally hits the admin, the office, the administration networks, and it tries to go to production because production is normally closed off to the internet, right? In this case, it was the production network, the secure network that got infected, and then it went and infected the rest of the company. Think about that. More importantly, there were a lot of Windows XP systems that were still in use, especially in production, which is how this happened. Because Trend Micro didn't have the ability to protect Windows XP. That's not a bad thing in Trend Micro, it just is. Because most people shouldn't be using Windows XP, but there are a lot of legacy systems out there that still run XP, and you can't upgrade from those. All right, that's just a fact of life. And if you think about how many people here, look at your organization, are you guys running XP through your operational systems? How are you going to better protect them? So what happens then is the entire factory was shut down for 4 hours, which was costing them around $725,000 per day. Okay, that's a lot of money. So what then happens is, if you push the button, the local partner was called in, and then they called Sangfor to come in, and we did incident response. One of the things that we do for incident response is we deploy Cyber Command as one of our tools to be able to do threat hunting. And then, depending on the organization, we will actually deploy Endpoint Secure as a secondary AV system on all the systems to be able to do health check, vulnerability checking, and to do scanning, looking for things that got through. Because again, we talked about that, 99%, you can block everything. A lot of things are built to block, but they don't know what to do after something got through the block. Endpoint Secure is designed to do best effort. We know that we're going to detect and block as best as we can up to 99.5%, but we know in Sangfor potentially something will get through. So Sangfor's position is, we think something got through. So we spend our time in threat hunting mode. We look for evidence of a breach. That's what we do. Because if we assume that you've been breached and start looking for that stuff, it makes it easier for us to detect when something bad happens and block it. That's very, very important. We showed you pictures. If you come to other things or watch any of my webinars and stuff, we talked about mean time to detection in Asia Pacific is over 225 days to detect a breach. and you were already breached probably a week or two or a month before that. And by the time you find the breach and you fix it, it's going to cost you many, many millions of dollars to close that out, or potentially put you out of business. So we deploy Endpoint Secure, and Endpoint Secure actually supports Windows XP, Windows 7, and some other things that's out there. So that it then talks to Cyber Command and tells you, I scanned these devices, I looked for evidence of infection, I found the ransomware. Okay? Once it's done that, it will then go and it will tell Cyber Command, kill all the sessions for lateral movement. Because that's the big thing, that's how malware and ransomware spreads. It tries to spread across other machines. So Cyber Command talks to Palo Alto and says, and to the Cisco router says, hey, don't allow this traffic through to try to minimize the spread of the bad stuff. And then Endpoint Secure was able to identify the ransomware, eradicate it from the infected systems, and then be able to go through and make sure that it looked at every other system in the environment and was able to kill it on all the systems in a single click. Why this becomes important is we were able to monitor over 1,000 hosts over the next few days, and the customer was very happy because they were down no more than 2 days, thus minimizing the effective operation and the cost of them. Okay? Incident response is a very, very important thing that you need to have in your back pocket. If you don't have the resources, work with your partner to build a plan that says, if I have a breach happen, something happens, what can you do to respond? How can you guys get here fast enough to help me? Right? And they'll work with you to build that plan, and they'll work with us to help support you guys. All right, let's talk about something a little more fun, a little less depressing. Infrastructure. My favorite, infrastructure. How many people love infrastructure? Don't you like a good infrastructure? You know, deploying stuff, making things connect together. Yeah, that's what I live for. Okay, we had a customer in the Middle East, actually one of the world's largest retailers, Carrefour. You guys know who they are, right? They're actually headquartered in the Middle East. Well, they're in 13 countries, and they needed to replace all their Cisco gear because Cisco gear was aging, it was end of life, and Cisco is very, very expensive. And they had to do this for about 20 some odd sites, 29 sites, I think it was. So what they did was they deployed the NGAF, our firewall, with the SD-WAN capability that we built in that we announced last year. It gave them flexible deployment so they could basically tailor the policies for each individual SD-WAN per country, and then be able to manage everything singularly through a single pane of glass. All right, saving them a lot of management time, a lot of management costs to be able to make this thing go. And it was low latency, high performance, high bandwidth, even in areas that had low speed connections. Carrefour was very, very happy about this, okay? We've got some really great technology to be able to solve a lot of your problems. You guys can see some of the technologies back there. I encourage you guys to go and check out our demo stations and get some cool stuff. By the way, go to the demo stations, get the badge, collect all the badges, you win a prize. Okay? Free stuff. You guys can't help. We get free stuff. Okay. Oops. This clicker is slow on me. All right. So, I talked about XDDR. So I want to introduce now XDDR 2.0. Our XDDR was Extended Detection, Defense, and Response. It was all about how we make our products play together. Now we've got a new platform in the cloud. So we can manage all our products in the cloud across geographical locations. If you have multiple locations, if you have multi-country type things, we can do it from there. And all our cloud technology, whether it's managed services like CyberGuardian, whether it's managed cloud, whether it is cloud-based Cyber Command or Platform X, is all based on this new technology that we're implementing. We spent a long time building this platform. It does some really cool stuff. You guys don't really care about all the underlying technology things, but the thing about this is, it does make your security simpler and secure, especially if you're using our managed services or you're using our SASE for subscription services. So all our products can be managed from the cloud. We've got thousands of security experts that are on call to be able to help you with any questions or with any kinds of incident response activities. We can actually even do red team, blue team hacking for you guys to be able to do penetration testing, and we do a lot of assessments. Assessments are your friend. You know what? We have a couple of ones that are complimentary and low cost. come find out about those, because have an assessment done, find out what your gaps are, and let's figure out how to fix those things, make sure that we close those attack surfaces. The nice thing about our new technology, it sucks in data from pretty much anything. We support a lot of third-party products now. We have global operations, we have data centers around the world. We've got 24/7 support, and again, we can do integration with whatever technologies that you have, and we'll be able to do the testing to ensure that everything works. So, as part of this, I want to introduce Cyber Guardian. This was a managed services, security services platform we deployed last year. And now we're pushing it out to other regions. And it works really, really well for Sangfor products, and now we're expanding out to support third-party products as well later on this year. Originally, Cyber Guardian was designed to work with the firewall and IAG to be able to do network detection and response, NDR. We then have recently released this year a new version that now supports not just networking stuff, but also endpoint secure. So now you can manage and you can monitor the endpoints as well as the network, and it gives you a more holistic view of what's happening in your environment. All right, now you see endpoint attacks you see endpoint data, you see network data that pulls together into a more complete picture of what's happening in your environment. And for a lot of organizations that just want to do endpoint management, we've had a lot of requests. This is why we built this. We had a lot of requests in Asia for organizations that had thousands of endpoints, but they didn't want to manage them themselves, especially across multiple locations. So now we're offering Cyber Guardian Endpoint that allows us to be able to manage your endpoints for you, monitor what's going on, and be able to provide incident response from the cloud almost immediately at a very low cost per agent. Okay? This way you don't have to pay for having infrastructure, having a manager, having somebody watching this stuff. We can do it for you for the less than the cost if you had to buy the agent by itself. Okay, here we go. So, one of the things we talked about, you saw Michael talk about earlier, zero trust is the new perimeter. This is where you guys have to start moving to, because again, you have no perimeter. What are you going to do? It's not just a firewall anymore. It's not just IDS anymore. You got stuff coming in from everywhere. How do you protect against the guy that is at home on his laptop and he's running AV software, right? And he's running a VPN and he's safe, isn't he? No, he's not. Why? Because he's got a wife, he's got children. Their laptop might be infected. Their mobile device might be infected. And it's going to jump to their corporate laptop and down the VPN. How do you protect against that? So what we do with zero trust, and we've talked about before, is we try to build the synergy in all our products. They play together to close the gaps to make sure that bad things can't get through in your traditional environments. But again, as we do working from anywhere, we need more. So what we do now is we're building zero trust, which means we're looking at who the user is, we're looking at who the device is, we're looking at what the application is. And based upon the authentication of the user, the authorization of the user, the authorization of the device based upon device risk, and the application coming in, you can now control access of what those things can and can't do coming into your environment from anywhere, externally and even internally. Because the idea here is reducing the amount of access anybody has reduces the amount of risk something bad is going to happen. Okay? All right, so first off, zero trust is not a product. You can't go there and buy, I want to buy a zero trust solution and plug it into my organization. It doesn't work that way. All right, zero trust is a strategy. Just like traditional security is a strategy, how you deploy things. So when you talk about Sangfor Zero Trust, again, we're talking about the users, the devices, and the applications. We're talking about how are we going to control all this stuff together, right? How are we going to make sure that we can identify the user, authorize what he can use? And you know what? He sits in the office all day, he gets on the system, he's authorized to do all this stuff. But when he's not in the office and he's coming on his phone, we're going to make sure he can only do these kind of things, because he has to be more limited in case bad things happen to him. And then it allows us to control not just his access to the resources that are internal, but it also protects the stuff by accessing the stuff in the cloud. This is what Zero Trust is all about, providing the least amount of access to do your job to minimize the threat that's out there, regardless of where the resource is, regardless of where the access is coming from. That's what the new perimeter is. Okay, so one of the things I want to announce is a new technology that we're coming out. Where we are now? We're in March, so next quarter. Yes, next quarter. Okay, and we'll be expanding on it later on this year. Because I want to talk about Sangfor Z Trust. Sangfor Z Trust is Sangfor's zero trust solution strategy. Not a product, but it is a way for us to take Sangfor products and put them together the way you need it to be done to be able to help you build infrastructure to build a zero trust strategy. Okay? We look at the environment. Is the environment safe? Is the user good? Is the device coming in? Is it at risk because it's infected? It doesn't have the proper patches, whatever it's going to be. Do we have the proper authentication? Can we authenticate someone using multi-factor authentication to verify it's them, so that someone tries to use just a bad password? Because right now there are 40 billion passwords that you can buy on the dark web right now. I know, because I found a bunch of mine on there. In fact, every time I go to Google, Google tells me you have 47 accounts with compromised passwords. I have to go back and change all those. So, this is a good thing for me. Zero Trust 1.0, which we're coming out with next quarter, talks about how you can use your existing technologies. Endpoint secure, the firewall, IAG, and by integrating together, as we talked about with using XDDR, and now XDDR 2.0 coming up, you can build a zero trust model using just those pieces. Okay? Which means you have now improved your return on investment. You have now extended the capability of your technologies so that you don't have to buy more stuff. If you're moving away from infrastructure, you want to get away from CapEx, you want to go to the OpEx, we have Sangfor Access. We announced that last year. We had it in limited regions globally. We're pushing it out to other countries later on, starting, actually this year. This is March, right? Today's March. Okay, so it's coming out, some new POPs that are coming out to be able to support this, which means you can buy a subscription per device, per user, much cheaper than having to pay with infrastructure. You buy a subscription, you go to the cloud, a nice, easy to use portal that helps you create policies and where you want things to go. If you don't even want to do that, you pay the subscription, and you use us for managed services, and Sangfor or your partner can take care of all that stuff for you, making your security simpler and secure. All right, so because we're talking about making our stuff anytime, anywhere, for everyone, we have POPs that are coming out. The first POPs I talked about, which are coming out at the end of this month, are going to be Hong Kong, Bangkok, Jakarta. We have a data center that is operational in Kuala Lumpur. So we'll be building the POP site for supporting SASE or Sangfor Access SASE over there, along with Manila. And then we'll also be doing in Europe, Milan and Frankfurt, Germany. We have a data center in Frankfurt, actually, that we use to support our EMEA customers. Why does this matter? Because some of you guys are not just local companies. Some of you guys have international operations, or you're part of an international scope. By having data centers other places outside of Asia Pacific gives you redundancy, gives you failover capability, and more importantly, it can meet a lot of compliance requirements. There are a lot of people here that have to deal with compliance requirements in your region, in your vertical, and maybe sending stuff to one of these things is not a great place. But if you send it out to Germany, where they've got GDPR, we have better, stricter controls on how we control your data. So again, we're giving you a lot of options on how to protect yourself and make your stuff more secure. Okay, with that, this is what we have now. You saw the new announcements for coming up for this first half of this year. I'd like to introduce my colleague, Witt Lin. Witt Lin, nice guy, very friendly. Give him a big hand. He is in charge of our security business planning group, and he's going to talk about some of the new innovative technology we have coming down the line later on this year and into next year.
Thanks guys. Thanks for having me on the stage. Hello everybody, I'm Witt. I'm responsible for security BG. First, let me ask you something. Is there anyone had callus on your hand? Well, I think it's most you don't have callus on your hand, but I can tell you something. I almost got callus inside my throat. Do you know why? Because in last 3 years in China, we got zero COVID policy. So we need to do the PCR test every single day. You're not crazy, right? So thanks that the winter is over, and I'm so glad to be here and share some interview, new technology and the new features it's about to release this year of Sangfor. Okay, so on my part, I'm gonna show you some new features and new technology. First, let's start with Sangfor Star product. First one, I think, as I know, the Indonesia and Malaysia, including other regions, are starting growing. The bandwidth of enterprise is becoming cheaper and cheaper. So enterprise can easily upgrade their bandwidth from 1 gigabyte or to 10 gigabytes or even more, 40 gigabytes this year. So first important thing about NGF, this year we'll have a brand new, really cool new architecture model with an enormous increasing performance model. And there's more. You now can have SD-WAN and WAN capability and NG firewall at the same time in one product, okay? And next one is our Cyber Command. So you know, synergy is a key advantage of Sangfor products. And we are keep telling you guys that every software of each product is fully self-developed by our R&D team from 0 to 1. And that is also not like other secure vendors. They grow the synergy power by acquisition. So I think that is why our Sangfor security is much easier to get more security effective than others. So that comes to the Cyber Command will release the third-party integration comprehensively this year to make it much easier to collaborate with your current security system. And of course, Cyber Command will have holistic integration with our own security products. And third one, for our IAG, you know, since last 2 years, IAG from Internet Access Gateway scenario and moved to the internal network. So this year, we will have the DLP and Network Access Controller inside our IAG, so you can have this also with the best ROI. And last thing, the endpoint secure. You know, along with digital transformation, you guys are keep purchasing security products by overlaps by year after year. So along with that, the endpoint security it become important and more and more important, right? So the endpoint for each end user in endpoint is start. Sorry. Endpoint for each storage is gonna could you give me some applause? Appreciate that. For each end user is deeply bonded with their endpoint. So in this year, we are going to release the OmniPoint Secure with ADR, APP antivirus, and also DLP and desktop management. We call it OmniPoint Secure. And I need to tell you a story about that, about Sangfor Z Trust. First, there's a group wanted to exfiltration and enterprise that call it Enterprise A. And then they did some research on this enterprise. They found out there's an IT team just like other enterprise, and they found there's a girl under this IT team. So this group sent out a hacker and start a relationship with girl. And after 3 months later, they live together. It's legal in domestic. And in the beautiful midnight, this hacker, when her fall asleep, it took her phone and with her username and password, and successful logging to the system. And do some research and download all the sensitive file and upload to the APT group. Now, I think this is a typical social engineering attack, and maybe you guys want to know, they might not happen on my enterprise because it's hilarious, or it might be rarely to my enterprise. But what if I change this hard to the dollars? There's still a lot of chance for APT group to get phishing or CEO fraud or disgruntled employee with malicious insider threat. But we always do the afterwards remediations when something happened. So what can Sangfor do in advance? Introducing the A-Trust. The A-Trust is going to become our new product this year, and it can be easily collaborate with NG Firewall and IAG. So downstairs on there, at the bottom, here's the movement of this hacker, and every single step is explainable. For example, it might be emergency support, or it might be asking from the CEO side. So when you take a look at the panorama analyze, it could be a high possibility of potential attack. So that is also the core of zero trust. You never trust anyone, anytime, and use the dynamic authentication instead of static authentication. And the most important thing is behavior baseline is necessary. When you have behavior baseline, you can know where, whenever it will be happening, the behavior deviation as soon as ASAP. And finally, about our looking to the future about Sangfor security portfolio. After all these years, the Sangfor is focusing on the network, endpoint, access management, and identity, also security service. And we start from NGAF and IAG. After year by year, we release our new security product. And then, finally, we are switched into our SaaS-based cloud platform. And the SaaS-based cloud platform will give you continuous evolving and enhance the security products. And the security services will be the final guardian of this whole security portfolio. So what we want to build is a systematic security portfolio by services, platform, and components. And also we want to provide an agile, scalable, easy to use, and with the best security effectives. Okay, I think that's all on my part. I'm still a little bit nervous, so sorry about that. Thanks.
Thank you, everybody. Please give a hand for Witt Lin over here. No, he's very uncomfortable being on stage. He doesn't like speaking. I had to beg and bribe him to do this, so he gets to go to RSA with me in California later on this year because he stood up on the stage. So thank you very much. Okay. So the big thing about this, I want to talk about a couple things. OmniPoint Secure is going to be our new integrated agent coming later on this year. You saw him talk about A-Trust. A-Trust is the agent that's going to replace the Ingress agent, if you guys are familiar, for IAG, for doing access control. And then A-Trust will be integrated into the Omni Secure agent either later, probably later on this year or the beginning of next year. Okay, we want to have one single agent that can provide you all your security needs, whether it's AV, EDR, access control, or monitoring, okay? And the reason why we did this is we have a lot of customers that want to do the access control. They wanted something more advanced than the Ingress agent, but they already had legacy antivirus in their organization. They want to replace that point secure. So you guys, if you already have something like that, A-Trust might be a nice way for you guys to go. Also, I'd like to point out, this is a soft announcement for you guys. As the new technologies come out, like the new version of the firewall and OmniPoint Secure, we are going to be rebranding some of our products. And if you go to the breakout sessions, you'll see some of that stuff in there. NGAF, I personally hate calling products by an acronym or by a product category. So we're going to be realigning our product names. So you're going to see the term network secure. All our point products are under the Secure brand, Endpoint Secure, turning into Omni Secure. And you'll see when the next generation firewall comes out, it'll be rebranded as Network Secure. Okay, just so you know when you see that in the breakout sessions. Now, some last words before we go. Zero Trust and the Z-Trust architecture is about identity security, starting with the A-Trust agent being able to work with whatever authentication mechanism you have, LDAP, Access Directory, other kinds of mechanisms that are in there, so that we can talk to your authentication mechanism to be able to pull the stuff in there to help do authentication, authorization for users coming any place, whether it is for basic control purposes, to be able to control access to network, to be able to provide you new functionality, and be able to make it an end-to-end authorization security point for identity. Next, we've got our new Omni Secure agent that's coming out. Again, integrating all the different agents that we have, adding some new functionality in there, including things like DLP and some other stuff. That'd be really exciting to come out later on. If you want to talk about that, you can talk over there at the Endpoint Secure booth, and we'll talk more about the OmniPoint Secure technology. And then, again, we have built a new platform to provide better cloud services to make your security simpler, more secure, and less expensive, okay? And I encourage you, you can actually play with Access over there. You've got our HCI technology out in the booth. You can see the things that Sangfor can bring to you guys to improve your security. I know you guys are here because you're Sangfor customers, and I'm not trying to do the hard sell, but you guys have experienced with some of the products and not seen the other ones. Here's your chance. I encourage you to go out and play with some of the other things that we have and see if some of those things might be interesting to your environments later on this year. And with that, thank you very much. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of Epic.